We're finally here on a very hot day, and some would call that very timely. What we're doing today is taking the next step in the European Union's path to boost and enhance its competitiveness, to strengthen its independence, and to cut its emissions. And we're doing so by putting forward an amendment to the European climate law that reduces emissions by 90% in 2040. And I know that many of you have been asking for this. Many of you have been thinking that actually it took quite a bit of time to get here. So let's also be straight and open about it. This is a sensitive topic. And in my experience, politics is at least as much about process, about communication, and about building solid majorities as it is just about content. And that is why we deliberately took a lot of time to think about this strategically, to engage with member states, to engage with civil society, with businesses, and of course with members of the European Parliament. Let's zoom out for a second. The context in which Europe operates, regardless of the specific topic, is actually extremely difficult. There's a huge amount of geopolitical turmoil. There's collective security and safety issues, and on top of that, there are worries about sustainable economic growth in many of our member states. We're therefore moving forward, and we're doing this because in our view, it makes sense from an economic, a security, and also a geopolitical standpoint, to make sure that we stay the course on climate. It is about protecting our people from extreme weather events and from global warming. And the Eurobarometer, which just cited, published on Monday, shows that 85% of Europeans are actually worried about climate change. But I've said to you before, and I think that we need to manage the paradox, that many of those same citizens also worry what climate action might mean for them. And bringing them along, making this fair for them, is therefore of the utmost importance. It's also about protecting our economies from economic losses resulted from climate change. An example I often give, because the number is simply so intimidating, is the 11% GDP loss of Slovenia following its devastating floods. But more examples, unfortunately, are available from all over the European Union. It is about becoming more independent and resilient. The European Union is still paying billions of euros every single year to get imported gas and oil. So as a matter of fact, it is about regaining competitiveness. And in our view, decarbonization is a powerful growth engine. If we do it right, and I'm convinced we will do it right, it can and will fuel investments in innovation and in clean jobs. Solar could go from strength to strength. Batteries have huge potential all across the Union. Wind, same thing. Geothermal. So let's make sure that Europe is going to be a leader in the domain of clean tech. Fundamentally, it is about making a strong business case for investments in this clean transition. About leading the next S-curve in technology and in innovation. About, as I said, investing in clean tech. So let's give companies the predictability that they are rightfully demanding from us. They need to know where we are going to get a return on their clean investments. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is for all of these reasons that we're presenting a reduction target of net 90% by 2040. And we're clearly ambitious. And yet, and that is of the essence, we are pragmatic and flexible on the how to achieve it. It's a huge transition. Let's just realize that. And therefore it is of the most importance to be non-dogmatic about how to reach success. A lot has been said about the flexibilities, and let me dive into that right away. We will allow for, first, a limited amount of high-quality carbon credits outside of the European Union. And these carbon credits will have to be verifiable, they have to be certifiable, and they have to be additional, because only then will it truly help. And by the way, only then will it truly help in building the bridge with our friends all across the globe. What it will do at the same time here, it will give breathing space for hard-to-abate sectors, and it will open new markets for durable carbon dioxide removal technologies. Secondly, and that is here at home, we will integrate permanent European carbon removals into the ETS, into the emissions trading system. For example, a European paper factory that stores CO2 from bioenergy can actually generate and sell allowances, thereby making money from the ETS, and that is not possible today. And in our view, what that will do is build a much stronger business case for companies to capture CO2 and then actually store it. Third, we will provide greater flexibility across the pieces of legislation and sectors between 2030 and 2040. We just have to acknowledge and realize that each member state is different and faces different challenges in reducing emissions in different sectors. And with such an approach, we feel we would allow member states, for example, to compensate for struggling in one specific sector, let's say the land use sector, with overachieving on reducing emissions on, for example, waste and transport. Now, on top of these three flexibilities, we need to make sure we build a strong enabling environment with clear prerequisites. And in my view, that is truly the conversation we need to have in the next year or 1.5 years. We have set out a framework for our post-2030 climate and energy legislation. Now let's make sure we build a system and get the how right. And then we look at national specificities. We'll certainly look at cost effectiveness, simplicity, efficiency. Frankly speaking, many of the elements that are part of the Clean Industrial Deal. And yes, technological neutrality will absolutely be part of that picture, as it should be. Last but not least, we're continuing to deliver on these Clean Industrial Deal commitments. We have, as you know, already simplified CBAM, exempting 90% of companies while keeping in place 99% of the emissions. We're announcing today also our solution for CBAM exports. Also today, we're coming with tax incentives to encourage investments in clean technologies and industrial decarbonization through measures that our member states will have to take, like accelerated depreciation and tax credits. It is up to them, but we're convinced it is a very good idea going forward. And we have a clean industrial state aid framework with a whole range of measures over the coming months. And frankly speaking, the list goes on. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're staying the course on the EU's quest to decarbonize. And once again, we're doing it for competitiveness, for climate, and for our independence. Once agreed, today's proposal will give us, if you will, a true north. We've listened to the science. This is strategically smart for Europe to do. And we know why we're doing it. Again, for economic, security, and geopolitical reasons. We know what we want to do, and that is the 90%. And we have a pragmatic approach on the how to make it work. 3 impactful flexibilities, a strong enabling environment, and a clean industrial deal. So we're ambitious, we're pragmatic, and we're flexible. We're taking a different approach, but with the same objective to achieve net zero by 2050. We do it for our people, we do it for our businesses, for our economy, and for a stronger and more resilient Europe. Thank you very much.